So today we're going to talk about how to use creative problem solving in managing classroom behaviors. Um, this is all for Family Resource Center staff, specifically in programming with youth. So kind of the program we're going to focus on today is ASA, which is our 6 to 8-year-olds. Looking at demographics, we have kids from about 10 countries. We also have different teachers teaching every day. And then we also have to kind of take into consideration our schedule with snack time, free time, and then activities. These are all things that are really important to consider when we are solving the problem that we're facing. So the issue that we're going to be focusing on today is students talking, being disruptive during activities. A couple of more things to consider, specifically with regards to our kids versus the program, would be language barriers. Our kids are all in very different places developmentally with their language and learning English as a second language for a lot of them. And then also what is developmentally appropriate for a 6 to 8-year-old, and kind of focusing our management based around that. So this is really important for us to create a positive environment that promotes learning and fun at the same time, so that we're somewhere that they want to be, but that we're still meeting parents' expectations as well. And the best time for us to do this, although it did not happen this semester, would be during training the week prior to the start of the semester, so that we have things set and in place for programming. So what is creative problem solving? It's a process that enables groups to recognize and act on opportunities, respond to challenges, and overcome concerns. And it's also a framework of putting together tools to develop new outcomes for situations. So it's a really good use for this situation because we have a lot of ability to take ownership. The issue is a little ambiguous because there's a lot of ways that we could go about managing classroom behaviors. It also requires the involvement of all the teachers in programming. Every teacher that's involved really needs to be committed to making this change and solving this problem. There's a need for new solutions because the ones that we currently have are not effective. And it's also complex because we are trying to find a solution that's motivating for all 20 or 30 of our students. Utilizing CPS, so how are we going to go about this problem? We're going to start by generating ideas, or how we've gone about in the past. We've generated ideas first, and so what we want to do when we do that is record every option, make sure that we're spending time specifically for that during our training. And a couple of good tools to use would be brainstorming with Post-its and a morphological matrix, which I will go into. So one of the things is brainstorming with Post-its, and this is a really good thing for us to use because we can get a lot of ideas out quickly. Everyone is able to write down their own ideas, and we have visual representation and reminders of what people have said, and some of those ideas can maybe spark some other ideas from there. We can piggyback off that. They're easy for us to save if we have to leave for lunch or the day and come back to it, and they're easy for us to focus through later. So some examples of things that we could write on brainstorming: blurt beans, maybe using a color chart, or maybe a timer trick. The morphological matrix, this one is a really good one because we have a lot of resources already here at the FRC, and so through this we can develop a solution based on what is already available. This again does not take up a lot of space. We could write it on a whiteboard, on a piece of paper, but it also focuses on the things that we think are the most important, the major variables in solving our problem. So if we were to make a matrix, it could look something like this, with the location of our solution, maybe on our bulletin board, maybe being a movable object, style of intervention, kind of similarly to the Post-its, blurt beans, timer tricks, a color chart, a check-in, check-out system, and then maybe the types of rewards that they could get from this management. Going back, moving on, after we've come up with all of our ideas, we're going to want to focus on the things that we like and kind of think about which idea is the best, So doing this, we want to be able to identify one strength of every idea that we think of and really be thinking out loud so that everyone knows why you're feeling the way you feel or why you're saying things. Um, and a couple of tools that would be really helpful for us is ALUO and selecting hits. So ALUO stands for advantages, limitations, uniqueness, and overcoming limitations. So this is a really good thing for us to use to kind of evaluate our choices because we can look at new things but still have a lot of structure that's important for working with our big group. We're able to address limitations head on, which can then help us overcome them. We can maybe change perceptions and get on the same page. Between teachers, there's a lot of differing perspectives, and this can help us determine what we think is the most important criteria. So we're going to look at our advantages, the things that we like out of each idea. We're going to look at the limitations, the things that maybe give us some hesitation to use that idea, and maybe we should change that a little bit before we move forward. The uniqueness, looking at the things that we think really make one idea stand out over the other. And then finally, being able to overcome limitations. How can we address the things that may be a hindrance in one of the ideas that we have? The next tool that we can use is selecting hits. I like this one because you can choose an idea based on feelings, and I think it pairs really well with ALUO because you are able to just say, it felt right. And this also facilitates discussions about ideas so that we can have open dialogue and really talk through as a group so that we're all very equally involved and committed. So an example of how we would have that dialogue when selecting hits would be saying that I think we should use the blurt beans or the color charts because these options feel more right to me because it allows our students to make choices that affect their color or number of beans. And you could say it just feels right. It just has that sparkle, for lack of a better word. Some potential setbacks that we do face working with classroom management is an unsupportive context. We might not have the right environment physically, which is why we're looking at maybe doing something portable. We have to take into account those things. Our classroom furniture is constantly being moved around, so that's could potentially be an unsupportive context. Teacher consistency and commitment, we really want to make sure that everyone is committed. And so a couple of ways that we can do this when we are coming up with our solution is to provide clear roles for each teacher and to also say things like, what we see ourselves doing is this, so that everyone knows that they play a part in solving this problem. And there could be other setbacks that we can address later as well. So some of the outcomes that we would like from using CPS, long-lasting classroom management solution, something that we can maybe shift with seasons. If it's in the summer, we can change the theme of it, but it's still going to be a consistent solution for the kids. Also to promote more effective problem solving within the group between teachers as a whole, and also maintain positive relationships and bring about a group cohesiveness as we're all involved in making this management chart for the students. So, the best solution one solution that I think would be really good is using a color chart, using a poster board that's easy to move in our environment where children can get both an individual prize biweekly and a class prize when they can spell out the phrase on point, going along with our succulent theme that we have had previously.